Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Monday. First and foremost, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, and I hope everyone's prepared and ready to bring in the new year. I pray that the new year brings many blessings to everyone, and I pray that everyone that does the New Year's resolutions actually sticks it out and really tries to hit their goal for the year. With that being said, though, I really appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I'm sorry for missing last week, all of last week actually. I was very sick and not feeling too well. And so I decided to just take the week off, just recover, uh, regenerate, and recuperate to being the best version of myself. And so today we get to bring back the talk of Mental Health Monday. And so, what I want to try to focus on today with Mental Health Monday is I want to try to be able to kind of um, open it up for a little discussion in a sense. I want to bring some stats to the table so that way you guys are aware of the stats that are out there for mental health, not just mental health in adults, but youth as well. Mental health uh, and just different things that comes with mental health as a whole. And just to start, one of the things that I found with mental health is that more than 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness every year. So just think about it. If you're in a room of 5 people, more than one of those 5 people in that room experience something with mental health. So it could be, you know, 50%, it could be 75%, who knows? But just think that more than one person in a group of 5 people experience mental illness every single year. Yo, 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 thank you for everybody that tuning in the chat. Appreciate you guys for showing love. Welcome in, welcome in. Another fun fact, not even fun fact, a fast fact, is more than 1 in 20 US adults experience serious illness, mental illness every single year. And more than 1 in 7 US youth ages 6 to 17 experience something with a mental health disorder every year. So more than 1 in 7 youth in the United States experiences mental health disorder. That's outrageous. That's one too many. 50% of all lifetime mental illness began by age 14 and 75% by age 24. 50% of mental illnesses happen by the age of 14. By the age of 14. That is crazy. And then 75% by the age of 24. Did you know that suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24? Mental health is nothing to play around with. It's serious. And that's why we say no dog fights alone, because this is serious, right? Just think that we have a role to play. If you see something, you say something. If you see someone just not acting themselves, speak up, say something. Because it's important to check in on the people that are in your circle. A simple, hey, how's your day going, goes a long way. 23.4% of US adults experienced mental illness in 2024. And that was based off of 61.5 million people. That's where we get that more than 1 in 5 adults from. 5.6 adults experienced serious mental illnesses in 2024, and that was based out of 14.6 million people. 16.5% of youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health disorder in 2016, and that was based out of 7.7 million people. That represented more than 1 in 7 youth. Just think that you got mental health disorders like schizophrenia. You have, uh, borderline personality disorder. You have obsessive compulsive disorder. You got bipolar disorder. You got major depressive disorder. You got anxiety. It's just different things that are out there. And I'm no expert on any one of these, but just think that these mental health disorders, by the numbers, say that these were, at least for some people, diagnosed by the age of 14, 50% by the age of 14, and 75% by the age of 24. %20 of males in the US experience mental health disorders, and 26.7% females experience mental health disorders. And it gets broken down by race, but just think that 20% of men in the US experience something with mental health, and 26.7% of women experience something with mental health. But if we know these numbers and these stats are out there for us to see, what is it that we can do to get ahead of this curve? How do we prepare for this battle? Like, this is so important. Like, this has to end. Like, we've seen a spike in mental health related issues when COVID became a thing and we were all forced to be inside, and we couldn't do much. But just think, we can get ahead of this curve. We have the stats right there. If you have been through something that is related to mental health, and you have some answers, and you are willing and open to share your experience to someone that has the similar situation as you, I would challenge you guys to do so, because it really would help save a life. It would help change the mindset and the perspective of someone. Just think, 52% of US adults that have mental illnesses received treatment in 2024. That's just 52%. Just a little above 50%, a little above half of the people who suffer from a mental illness have received a treatment of some sort. 70.8% of adults with a serious mental illness received treatment in 2024. And only 50% of youth ages 6 to 17 with a mental health disorder received treatment in 2016. A stat that's right here, it says, is that the average delay between onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment is 11 years. 11 years? 11 years. You gotta be kidding me. 11 years. Gotta wait that long to get some type of treatment. 11 years? Oh, no, that's outrageous. We got to do better. We are failing our own people. We literally are failing our own people. Only 42% of men with mental health disorders receive treatment. And 59% of women with a mental health disorder receives treatment. Like, that's crazy. How come we can't get this number up to 100%? It's a shame to know that only 42% of men with a mental health disorder receives treatment and 59% of women with a mental health disorder receives treatment. 9% of adults that suffer from a mental health disorder had no insurance. No insurance coverage in 2024. Why is that? Why is it that the health insurance doesn't cover mental illness? We work our entire lives. We pay for these health insurances to be told what gets covered, what doesn't get covered, and that we got to pay out of pocket for X, Y, and Z. But why not fight for something that involves mental health? Because that is important. 120 plus million people live in a designated mental health professional shortage area. That is crazy. So you mean to tell me that no matter almost like I said, I'm no professional in this area or anything along those lines, but almost anywhere we go, there's a shortage of mental health professionals. 120 plus million people live in an area that is short mental health professionals. Why? Why can't we catch this sooner rather than later? Like I said before, 11 years before someone can typically receive some kind of treatment. I just read a stat that said people with depression have a 40% higher risk of developing cardiac diseases, hypertension, stroke, diabetes, obesity, 34.5% of adults that suffer from a mental health disorder have substance abuse disorder. 6.9% of adults with mental illnesses are unemployed. Unemployed. High school students that suffer from a mental health illness are 2 times more likely to drop out of high school than someone who doesn't suffer from a mental illness. And students ages 6 to 17 who suffer from a mental illness are 2 times more likely to repeat the same grade that they are in. This affects our family as well. At least 8.4 million people in the US provide care to an adult with a mental illness. Caregivers who support and look after people with mental illnesses work an average of 32 hours a week, providing unpaid care. So you're working almost another full-time job and not getting paid for it. We got to do better than that. We seriously got to do better than that. In 2024 alone, 18% of people experiencing mental illness were homeless. 12% of people who suffer from mental illness went to the emergency room last year. Over 1.6 million people were hospitalized due to mental illnesses. But we can't get the treatment because our insurance don't cover it. But we can't get the treatment not only because our insurance don't cover it, but because there's a shortage of mental health professionals. In a sense, there's not really a shortage of mental health professionals because we just heard it. A lot of people that take care of someone that suffers from mental health illnesses work 32 hours a week unpaid. So what do they need to do to start getting paid to support someone that has a mental illness? We are in a serious crisis in the US when it comes to mental illness. Due to serious mental illnesses, the US economy has lost $193.2 billion last year in earnings. Why? They said that schizophrenia led to an excess economic burden of $343.2 billion in 2019. And that depression and anxiety disorders cost global economy $1 trillion every year. But we're spending this money and we can't get people paid to support those with mental illnesses. Mental health disorders are the leading cause every year for those that live a life with disability. There are some signs out there. There are early warning signs out there. Pay attention. Get to know people and what they like to do on their everyday life. Check in on your loved ones. See how they're doing. It's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to talk about suicide. You have to make sure that people aren't on the verge of having those thoughts of suicide. All lives matter. I'll say it again, all lives matter. Suicide was the 11th leading cause of death in the US in 2023. It was the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 14 and 15 to 24 in the US in 2023. One person every 11 minutes dies from suicide. That means that's about 5 people in an hour. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. One person dies by suicide every 11 minutes. And 46% of the people that are diagnosed with a mental health illness committed suicide. And 90% of people who die by suicide may have experienced symptoms of a mental health disorder, according to interviews with people, family, friends, and medical professionals. Five 5.5% of men and women commit suicide. And 79% of the people who commit suicide are men. That suicide rate is nearly 4 times higher in men than it is in women in the US. That's crazy. I can't believe it. Like these stats are just, it's heartbreaking to know that we are putting so much time, so much effort into everything but what matters the most. We got these government shutdowns that happen, but when these government shutdowns happen, let's fight for stuff that matters. Let's fight for our mental health. Let's get the support that we need. Because someone you know or may have known may have suffered or is suffering currently from a mental health disorder. And that person might be one of the 9% that their health insurance does not cover mental health treatments. And they can't get the help and support that they need because it costs too much money. Mental health care matters. Like there's no workaround to that. Like it matters. Your mental health matters. Like I said, only 50% of youth receive treatment that suffered from mental health disorders. Like that is crazy. More than 2/3 of US public schools report an increase in students seeking mental health services at school since COVID-19 has happened. And only 50% of public schools, 56% of public schools say they can effectively provide mental health services to students, all students in need. 56%. Let's get that number up to 100%. Like that's just it's heartbreaking to know that people are suffering mentally, but they're not getting treatment because there is a shortage in mental health professionals, or they're not getting the treatment because their insurance doesn't cover, or they're not getting the treatment because they don't know how to speak up about what's going on. And that 50% of mental health disorders are diagnosed by the age of 14 and 75% by the age of 24. See, how you treat people matters. As I said before, a simple text can go a long way. Just checking in on somebody can go a long way. In person, hey, how's your day going? Simple conversation can go a long way. Let's look at some mental health stats in veterans and see what that looks like. You know, we just looked at just um, regular people that are not veterans at all. But let's look what it says about veterans as a whole. Hmm. More than 1.7 million veterans received treatment in a VA mental health specialty center or program in 2018. The VA is doing a lot to support the veterans and their mental health. If I'm not mistaken, 11 to 20% of veterans suffer from PTSD, and 24% suffer from depression and substance abuse. And that's crazy. It's just mind blowing to think that the help is not even there. It says veteran suicide rates have increased, surpassing civilian rates and becoming a leading cause of death for younger veterans, emphasizing the urgency of care needed in mental health. Suicide is the leading cause of death in veterans, surpassing civilian rates. That's just it's outrageous to even think about that. Like I get that veterans face a complex lifestyle and stress, and they're under a lot of stress in the environments that they put themselves in, especially when veterans go, um, or soldiers go overseas for deployments and things like that. They come back, they mentally may not be there. And I've said this before that the military does a great job of preparing its soldiers to go overseas to fight a war, a battle, but does a poor job of bringing the veterans home and making sure that their mental health is okay. That is my personal opinion, but it shows here because suicide rates are the leading cause, surpassing civilian rates. It's outrageous. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight on Mental Health Monday. I want to give you guys the rest of your night back. Join me next week for another episode of Mental Health Monday. Hopefully, we can bring some more stats to the table. Hopefully, we can bring in a professional to talk about mental health. I want to take and get some athletes who suffer from mental health and have them share their experience and what that is like. So, yeah, just keep tuning in every Monday night for Mental Health Monday. Again, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Team Talk Tuesday. You guys stay classy. Let's go, dogs.